In 2019, a couple rented a remote Airbnb cabin in the Scottish Highlands, miles from the nearest town, hoping for a quiet weekend away from work and phones. The listing mentioned minimal Wi-Fi and no nearby neighbors, which sounded perfect. The owners left a key in a lockbox by the door and a printed welcome note on the kitchen table. The first night was uneventful. Wind against the windows, the occasional distant bleat of sheep, the low hum of the old refrigerator. Before bed, they walked through the cottage and noticed a small, framed photograph on a side table. A blurry picture of a different couple standing in front of the same cabin, both smiling awkwardly at the camera. The frame had a thin layer of dust, like it hadn't been moved in a long time. Sometime after 2 a.m., the boyfriend woke up, convinced he'd heard gravel crunch outside. He lay still, listening. The sound came again. A slow, uneven tread on the path that led from the tiny driveway to the front door. No car engine, no doors closing, just footsteps, the kind someone makes when they don't care if they're heard. He held his breath. Beside him, his girlfriend muttered in her sleep and turned over. The footsteps stopped directly in front of the cottage. He waited for a knock that never came. After several minutes of silence, he worked up the nerve to lift the curtain a fraction of an inch. The path outside was empty, lit only by a thin slice of moon and the faint glow from the porch light they'd left on. The gravel looked undisturbed. He told himself it was the wind and went back to bed. In the morning, they found 3 faint, damp footprints on the wooden porch, bare feet, broader and longer than either of theirs, heading toward the door but not away from it. There were no other marks on the steps, no mud, no trail leading back to the path. The wood around them was dry. They tried to shrug it off. Maybe someone from the main house checked on the place late at night. Maybe the prints were older and the boards had dried unevenly. They went on a hike, came back exhausted, and decided to leave early the next morning to beat the weather. That second night, a storm moved in. Rain drummed on the roof, wind whistled down the chimney. Power flickered once, but held. Around midnight, the girlfriend woke up needing a glass of water. As she passed through the small sitting room, she noticed the framed photograph again. Only this time she stopped. The couple in the picture were still standing in front of the cabin. Same clothes, same awkward smiles, but in the reflection of the cottage window behind them, there was a third figure, tall, indistinct, standing just inside the glass as if in the room, looking out past them. She hadn't seen that before. She chalked it up to shadows and the way the lamplight hit the photo. Still, she turned the frame face down on the table before going back to bed. They left at dawn, dropping the key in the lockbox and sending a quick message to the owner thanking them and mentioning, half joking, "We think someone might have walked up to the cabin one night. Any neighbors we should know about?" The owner replied hours later after they were already headed south on the motorway. The message was polite but oddly firm. "There shouldn't be anyone around the property while guests are there. We always leave the cabin empty at least a week between stays for cleaning and airing out. You were the first guests we've had since last autumn." Out of curiosity, did you see the photograph in the sitting room? You're actually the third couple to ask about someone else being outside. The people in that photo never came back to collect their things after their stay. We found the developed picture on the camera they left behind and decided to keep it as a kind of lost and found reminder. There were only 2 of them booked that weekend. He read the message aloud as they drove. When he finished, they both sat in silence for a long time. Then she said very quietly, "I turned that photo face down last night." He frowned. "Yeah, I remember. I saw it." They checked their phones. Neither of them had gone back into the sitting room after she'd done it. The last thing they had seen was the frame lying flat on the table. But in the owner's reply was a final line they both kept rereading. "Glad you enjoyed your stay. By the way, thank you for straightening the photograph back up before you left. It's nice to see their faces aren't hidden anymore." By the way, thank you for straightening the photograph back up before you left. It's nice to see their faces aren't hidden anymore.